Well, for everyone that is tuning in to listen or to watch this, I had of Legal Innovators in New York City. I've got Matt Darling, who is the Vice President of Sales for LegalSifter. I would give now the opportunity for him to introduce himself and also what LegalSifter does.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And we're excited to attend the conference. I'll be there along with our CEO, Eric Hall. So we'll have an opportunity to meet some folks in person, which will be exciting. I have been part of the LegalSifter team since June of this year. I'm joined after spending a while in public relations and communications tech and having some legal experience before that, but am on board here to do a couple of things. One is what we'll be highlighting in this conversation, but also spending a lot of our time, I think, talking about next week in New York, and that's our AI contract redlining product, Review Pro. And that's a significant part of my focus is bringing that to market and expanding our customer base there, and had a lot of really positive customer conversations around that, and really well received on the product side. And we can get into that for sure. But high level overview, it allows users to load up a contract, review it against a playbook, and in a couple of minutes have a fully redlined document. And so that's something that we're excited about, and we've been having a lot of conversations around. We also have a contract lifecycle management product called ContractLogix, and that is an end-to-end contract management tool from inception, ticketing, workflow, all the way through repository and document management. And there's a pretty exciting AI layer in that product as well for data extraction, so that folks can understand what's in their contracts and get that done, either in a large upload or on an ongoing basis. And that's something that we've been rolling out there. And we have a professional services arm that's all attorney-led also.
And you're an American company. Where is the company headquartered right now?
The company was founded out of Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, and we still have a presence there. ContractLogix was in the greater Boston area, but we have moved to more of a distributed model. So we have employees now that are all over the US.
And your customer base is primarily of law firms, or do you also work with corporations?
Both. So we serve law firms with both products and with the services element, but we, especially through some of our newer capabilities, are serving in-house teams and even brands and organizations that don't have a legal function because of the way that the contract review tool works. But also every business has contracts, and so there's a need to understand what's in them and have them available. And so we have kind of an equal distribution of customers across both the law firm world and the brand world.
And there seems to be quite a diverse bandwidth in terms of the benefits that the product offers. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you feel sets LegalSifter apart from its competitors?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that's one of the things that I'm really personally excited about too. A lot of that is rooted in our philosophy around AI assisted contract review. Some of it is our overall approach to the market, but when you think about how we're approaching contract review, so many of the tools that are out there rely on prompt-based contract review. And in practice, that's not that different from loading up a document in Microsoft Word and using Copilot to inspect it, or loading something into ChatGPT and using that for risk identification or for alternative language. And the way that we are thinking about that is driving repeatable, consistent outcomes. And we found that the best way to do that is to put a lot of guardrails around the AI, and we do that through playbooks. And that means that you don't have to be an expert contract reviewer to use the tool. You do to author the playbook, but to use the tool, that makes it accessible really across the organization, and you get repeatable, scalable results. And we think that's really important, especially in a legal context, because if you ask an LLM like ChatGPT or Gemini the same question 3 or 4 times, you're going to get 3 or 4 different answers. And that level of inconsistency doesn't work when you're thinking about liability and risk and the relationships that businesses have with each other through contracts. So a lot of what sets us apart really is that philosophy of playbooks over prompting and how we think about powering the tool. And the outcome that that leads to is also a little different than what some of the rest of the market is able to deliver. And that's a fully redline document. You load up the contract, you push a button, the outcome is a document with complete with track changes and comments and the kind of tactical edits that a human reviewer would make that are aligned to the organization's standards. So you don't have to spend time, inspecting individual clauses and prompting for alternate language. In a couple of minutes, you can have a fully redlined document, and then from that point, you should review it. But from that point, you can return it to the counterparty. And so we're really looking to increase velocity, reduce risk, and make the Review Pro tool scalable inside of an organization, so that we're also taking some of that rote contract review work off of the general counsel's plate.
And would you say that in terms of velocity at which those tools are now required and adoption is happening, this has dramatically increased over the last couple of years? And I believe you're coming with kind of an enhanced featured opportunity to the conference next week. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the features that your existing customer base finds particularly useful, and nice, not just nice to have, but just particularly impactful for what they have to deliver as legal professionals?
Yeah, I think the one piece that we consistently get the most positive and exciting feedback around is that auto redlining capability. The fact that we're replacing hours of manual review with
Mhm.
a single click that gets you a compliant redlined agreement. And what we hear from our customers is that that is cutting down about 80% of their review time. And when you think about the volume that a lot of businesses are dealing with, it might not feel like a lot to spend 30 or 45 minutes here and there on an NDA or a services agreement, but that really adds up, especially at the end of the month or the end of the quarter. And so if you can have that kind of time savings, it drives a lot of value across the business. And that's something that has been really consistent feedback that we've gotten, that you save a lot of time and you can increase confidence in the output.
Are there particular industries in the corporate legal function that you seem to be more successful with, or would you say that from an industry standpoint, your success is quite universal across the board?
I mean, I think both of those things are true. There's a universality to the product because just about every business in every industry has a need for contract review. And because of the flexibility of the playbook tool, it can work for any business and in any industry. But we do see some spikes where there seems to be either a significant concentration of customers or a quicker value unlock. Healthcare is one of those. I think because compliance and data security are so important in healthcare because of the regulations there and the sensitivity of private information. That's something that the product tests very well in, and we have security compliances around. So there's a lot of trust in healthcare and using both Review Pro and ContractLogix. That's a tool that handles that sensitive data very effectively. So we have a number of healthcare customers, manufacturing as well, because that's something that there can be pretty diverse things that are being negotiated with individual customers, but the products stay the same. And what the business is trying to do from a risk mitigation standpoint stays the same. And so being able to apply those standards across what can be a pretty diverse corpus of contracts is really effective. And the third industry I'd call out is higher education. We have quite a few higher ed customers on both sides of the business, the CLM side and the Review Pro side. And I think there's some similarities with both of those first two elements. There's a data security and data privacy component in higher ed. And there's also a lot of third-party paper in higher education, especially the sponsored research and other things where they are evaluating templates that are not their own. And so we can bring a lot of speed and support there.
And do you think that a lot of that relevance has been drawn from your origins as an organization that has come out of a university?
Yeah, I think that's a good parallel to draw because, originally it was a group of data scientists at CMU that saw a need and an opportunity to improve contracting. And that now was in 2013, so almost 12 years ago. And there is over a decade of experience in training AI and machine learning to evaluate contracts. And that's really the underpinning of what the tool's capabilities are today.
And you're an established organization, so there is a sense of stability, there is a sense of security that your customers and users can feel when adopting your tool. You mentioned corporations, but then at the same time, would you tell us, is there a specific law firm segment or size of law firms that you seem to be more adequate for? Who are the people really next week and beyond, the people that are listening to this, that should outreach to you and engage with LegalSifter and see whether the solution can be of use to them and their organization?
We have seen a lot of value and utility for transactional attorneys that are doing contract review on behalf of their clients. And
Mhm.
depending on the size of the firm, and to that point, I think medium to large firms, we drive a lot of value for, because there's a diversity of the client base. And so from day to day, you might be handling contracts in totally different industries or totally different business segments. And, being able to leverage a tool to review those contracts can save a lot of time and also support the notion of context switching, right? You might have a logistics contract in front of you, and then you get up, you grab a cup of coffee, and you come back and you have a physician employment agreement, and depending on the kind of businesses that you're supporting. And so being able to have a tool that can drive that consistent outcome, and then you're going through it to make sure that's aligned to your preferences, but you don't have to do that top to bottom review, saves a lot of time, increases velocity. And we find that a lot of our attorney clients, our firm clients, really appreciate that and allow them to focus in their work more effectively.
And feeding a little bit on that, we have seen also ourselves that there has been an increased interest for point solutions focusing on complex transactions. A lot of the innovation teams that we host at our conferences and we speak with daily have been telling us that they are currently on the market for such solutions. Do you see in the near future LegalSifter developing some additional features to enable organizations that deal with complex transactions on daily basis?
Yeah, I think our primary mission and the way that we've always thought about that is solving contract pain. Organizations have a lot of contract pain, right? And we have looked to solve that on the review side, on the repository and the workflow side. I think we don't have plans to expand into broader matter management or into litigation support, but in that contract component, the transactional aspect of business, there are things that we will continue to do to try to provide more value there. And one of the things on the short-term review pro roadmap, and I'm sure this will come up in some of our conversations next week, is bringing some contract repository and ticketing workflows into that tool, so that in addition to being able to use it for review, teams can also use it to initiate requests and track those requests, and be able to refer back to contracts later. And then a second area that I think will really unlock a lot of value. Today, Review Pro handles the first pass review of third-party contracts. And that covers a pretty significant segment of what businesses are looking for support in, and many businesses are using someone else's template for their contracting. But what we are bringing in is the ability to use Review Pro for multi-pass review. So red lines on red lines, being able to put that through and manage fallback positions and do multi-pass analysis of agreements. And the second is first-party paper. So when someone marks up your template and sends it back, you would be able to use Review Pro for that first pass review as well. And I think that will then really make the tool applicable across the entire contract negotiation lifecycle and add even more value.
And Matt, just to wrap things up, can you tell our listeners what is LegalSifter's vision for the future, both from a product development standpoint, but also from a go-to-market standpoint?
Yeah, it really ties back to that comment I made earlier about our mission to solve contract pain. And we want to make contract review and management faster, smarter, and less risky, not just for attorneys, but for anyone who has to touch a contract. And we absolutely do serve attorneys. That's a really important part of our customer base, giving them consistency and speed and confidence that AI aligns to their standards. But we also extend that power to procurement and operations and finance and sales teams and all of these other business teams that have to manage contracts and make daily decisions about contract terms and risk. And so our goal is to empower all of those teams with the same level of intelligence and guardrails that legal departments have so that they can drive efficiency and velocity through the business and get to the outcomes that they need to deliver. And that, I think, encapsulates the future that we're building towards. So one where contract review is not a bottleneck inside of a business, but it's a strategic advantage. And it's one that is powered by AI that delivers consistent, auditable results and that align to organizational standards.
Thank you, Matt. We look forward to having you alongside your CEO. And for those who will be with us, we look forward to meeting you all at Legal Innovators New York.